So as promised, um, I'm going to do the follow-up video with my operation having been done now, um, and sort of give any sort of inclination as to what happened, what I expected, and what maybe others might be feeling pre-op, and what to expect and what not. Where to start then? So I went in for my operation at 11:30. I'll give you my story. And finally got the operation done at 5 to 4, having not had anything to eat since 7:30. So I guess you'll need to know that for later on, because it does tie in to a part of the story that that'll make sense when we get there. So anyway, I get the operation done, and I wake up to what is essentially a really, really bad stomach ache. I mean, it's probably like one of the worst I've had in a while, but also a really bad shoulder pain, and just feeling really, really off. Um, that lasted probably into the night, because obviously I had the operation around 4, 5 o'clock. Slung back into my room, because I had to stay overnight because there'd been complications, which turned out to be a buildup of bile, basically, in the system somewhere. They didn't really explain it to me in full detail, but yeah, they took it out. Apparently, all went well on that side, but they had to sort some other stuff out. I now have 4 wonderful puncture marks, one sort of central, 2 to the side, and 1 directly above my navel. And they didn't fuss me too much, you know. Didn't feel like I'd been ragged around too much inside. But as it would turn out, the reason why I was in so much pain was because I was just starving. And part of the procedure, that's the word I was looking for. Part of the procedure requires that they basically fill you full of gas, just pump you up so they can see exactly what they need to see, snip out, and job done. And that feeling of being inflated, oh, give you this shoulder pain. They tell you that's to be expected, but they don't tell you about it in advance. You know, they don't say, oh, by the way, we're gonna pump you up like a balloon. But once you've obviously expelled it in both directions, you do manage to feel a little bit better. I tried eating, but they weren't exactly the most catering to my dietary requirements. Obviously, before this, I was diagnosed with IBS and something else, I can't remember, but I cut out all the trigger foods, and a lot of that includes gluten. I don't eat meat products, don't eat meat. Just basically, I'm a pain in the ass, you know. Well aware, well aware. A lot of people would agree with that. And all I got that evening was a single bowl of adult amount, daily requirement of cornflakes, which I could fit into the palm of my hand. And they were dithering around so much with, you know, the idea that it needed milk, you know, and they said, we don't have any soy milk, we don't have anything. So I just went, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Bring it to me. And that's when I realized that I had literally no saliva gland working that day. So I had to fill it full of water, which was a little bit iffy, but needs must, you know. I mean, by the end of the experience, which went on from the evening through the night into the next morning, by the next morning, I felt much better, you know. Is there a lot of reflux? They told me not to take my omeprazole. So I've got, that's another one. I've got gastroesophageal reflux disease. So they told me not to take my omeprazole, and they didn't tell me when to start again. So I've just not started taking them again. And in the sort of mindset that they might end up it might end up balancing out in the end. Like maybe the issue that I've had with my gallbladder could inevitably have actually had a knock-on effect, because we don't know how long I've had it. Not having as bad as it used to be though, and in terms of acid reflux, I've not had the same sensation. I've had a couple of like close calls, um, but there's been nothing that's sort of cause for concern. And I shouldn't have been on the omeprazole as long as I was anyway. From what I read, you're supposed to be on about six weeks. I was on it for, let's say I was 20 when I got given them. I mean, 16 years, So yeah, 16 years versus 6 weeks. So I'm going to see if this makes any difference. Maybe take them as and when. I don't know. I can't see how that'd work. And my battery is running low, so I don't know if I'm going to get cut off. But I think the biggest takeaway from it for me was to expect is the fact that you've had your abdominal wall chopped into. Oh, Yorkshire. Because the one above the belly button, I've coughed a few times and I've sneezed a few times, and that bad boy's really caught me off guard, and it doesn't look the nicest, because as it turns out, they stapled it, but they didn't tell me that. So I've taken off the bandages to have a look, and I've seen staples with absolutely no directions as to when to get them taken out. And that's added a certain dynamic to the to what's going to be happening in the future, because I then had to ring up the hospital to ring back to my GPs and get it all sorted out, which I think would be part and parcel of the experience, that I'd be able to have it all inclusive, but never mind. Let's see, what else is there? No, I mean, I've expected to have all sorts of issues toilet-wise, and the only thing that really changed is that the pain in the morning now that I used to experience, the crippling stomach cramps, the just the gas, everything, to be polite about it. It's definitely transitioned from one sensation to another, which is now just needing the toilet, which is it's almost like going back in time and then remembering what it was like to have a regular cycle system. I don't know. This is why I'm live. Otherwise, I'd have ended up and starting again. So yeah, just to go back to a regular sort of movement really has been really nice. But it's a different kind of sensation, like I say. So I think that as time goes along, I am going to forget about what it felt like to be where I was, which I'm so happy to get away from, because it was depressing, it was tiring, and having to constantly worry about whether something had too much fat in it or whether there was spices in it that were going to flare me up. And as it turns out, there was a perfectly legitimate reason for it. And it was real, because you've got to track it down. You've got to keep hammering away at the door, because I nearly got told that were it. Giant hand. That was it. They basically were going to say to me, we've checked everything, we've scanned you, we've MRI'd you, we've done everything, we don't know what else it could be. And I said to them, check my gallbladder. And the gallbladder specialist who I was seeing was a little bit reluctant, and he was almost pissed off, to be honest with you. All right, whatever. But if it isn't this, that's it. You are done. We don't know what it is. It's a giant mystery. And I get the scan, I get checked out. You've got to advocate for yourself, because otherwise, God knows where I would have been. There was a bile buildup, there was a problem with the movement, there was no function that's supposed to be there to help digestion. I could have I could have been infected. I could have ended up with some toxic BS in my body. I don't know, but you really, when you know there's something wrong, if you go to a doctor and you tell them I have something wrong, they say try this, try this. Okay, I'm not try that. Did it work? Whatever, mate. People get despondent with it. They lose hope. But you're supposed to then feed back to the doctor, but they don't ask if it worked. They will just assume that it worked, and away you go, off into the sunset. So when you know there's something wrong, follow it up, and don't be worried about the idea of having your gallbladder out. I was a little bit. I was excited because I knew of the change that was coming. But I think that the worry was that it was going to make a massive, massive difference. Everybody tells you, oh, my grandmother had it done, I had it done, I feel so much better for it. They tell you when you go in, you've got 90% chance of it being this, 80% chance of it being that, 10% chance of nothing whatsoever happening. But I imagine right now that if I got back on my omeprazole the way I felt before, plus the way I feel now, I'd feel great, you know? So I wouldn't worry about it too much if you've just been diagnosed with the same issue and you've been put on a waiting list, or you've been put in straight for surgery, or whatever the case may be. You know, it's worth it, because what's the other outcome? You can do nothing about a gallbladder problem beyond get rid of it. So I am going to start looking into supplements, because I believe there are supplementary gallbladder bile system stuff out there. Let's not pretend I'm not a bit dizzy. And I'm going to sort of trial a couple of those and see where I end up, because I just want to make sure that I'm back up and functioning again, because I've got a life to lead, and I've had to sort of step out of it for a while, and it's been pretty demeaning. Could I go into another live session with a bit of therapy for me, something cathartic to talk about the shitstorm that happened in my life? Maybe. But I think that's probably for another day. I will do more of these. I'm finding it to be good practice, because inevitably I do want to do something a little bit more structured, with an aim. I've often wanted to do like movie reviews. I know that Katie, who's my better half, she wants to do food reviews. She wants to do, and she'll not disagree with me. It's basically some sort of mukbang type. Yes, I can really taste the XYZ, and using some new sort of vocab to explain crunchiness on scales of 1 to 10 and chocolatey zings and whatnot. We did try do something before Christmas last year, but I think that as a practice run, it was okay, it was fun, but we didn't have any lighting, we didn't have good sound. We watched Scrooged, and we'd make like we'd watch a 15-minute block, make notes, and then as we sat and read through the movie notes that we hadn't compared and contrasted what we knew, because she'd seen it before, but I've loved, Bill Murray films, Bill Murray, legend. Bit of a rough time he's had lately, whatever the case may be there, but still, work still stands up for me. So at the time, no controversy, so we watched that, and whilst we were talking about it afterwards, we'd eat like some foreign type marzipan covered in fancy ass chocolate or something, and try and sort of emote what it was that brought to the palate. So yeah, it's good to have something in the pipeline now to feel like I can move on with life, because everything came to a pretty big standstill just for the amount of knock-on effect that having that issue with your stomach has to your ability to function on a day-to-day basis, not being able to get up straight away. feeling like you've had your guts driven over in the middle of the night, and they're late evenings as well. You know, when you're processing and digesting later into the evening, it slows down, and you're getting the same sort of build up to those cramps that you can have in the morning. Sorry. So that is the takeaway from it. Go for it. You know, don't worry about it, and don't look at the negative outcomes, because it's a much smaller percentage. They do warn you, but they've got to. It's just a legal requirement. And you know, onwards and upwards. And I guess if I do this right, I'll have an awesome outro. If I don't, it's going to be awkward as shit. Okay, let me do it this first. Where's the stop button? Come on, don't be lame now. Where have we got it? I think it's that one. All right. Take it easy. Be kind. Just do the best you bloody can. Yeah, awkward as shit. I knew it. I knew I'm gonna be able to do it right. And oosh.